My name's Dom Stevens, I'm manager of Destination Chesterfield, and I'll be your host this morning. This event wouldn't happen without the support of all the partners who make it happen, so a big thank you to Chesterfield Borough Council, the Careers and Enterprise Company, the North Derbyshire Careers Hub, D2N2 LEP, and the team at Destination Chesterfield. Please do engage through the event platform. There's lots of useful information in the virtual goodie bag. You can use the chat to engage with other delegates. Also, at the end of the morning, we'll have a question and answer session with our speakers. If you would like to ask them a question, please do add it in the chat and we'll pick those up later in the morning. Please do engage on social media and use the hashtag Chesterfield Skills to spread the word about the event and our speakers. Every year, the focus of this event is our future workforce, which is why in recent years we've asked students, our future workforce, to open the conference. This year we're going to bring the students to you virtually. The Careers Hub have worked with the Freedom Factory, who've supported students from Chesterfield to create a video to open this year's event. Articulating the student voice, the video highlights the impact of the pandemic on young people's education and careers development. Over to our students.
Welcome to the Chesterfield and North Derbyshire Employability Skills Conference. We are going to demonstrate to you how your generous support has impacted the lives of young people in your area today.
This pandemic has left many young people feeling isolated, anxious and uncertain about their future. But with your support through the D2N2 Careers Hub, we have been able to instill confidence and self-belief and allowed young people to realise that they do have choices.
With your help, we are inspiring lives and building aspirations, enabling young people to explore the many opportunities available to them. They are now able to see the value that they can add into businesses today.
Throughout our work, we have seen an increase in the number of young people who feel they have no purpose in life or the ambition to follow their dreams. We provide children and young people with the tools to make positive choices about their future and to help them to build the resilience they need to succeed.
Throughout the pandemic, young people have seen the aspirations to achieve disappear, which has impacted the way they perceive themselves and made them unsure about which career path to take. Through the D2N2 Careers Hub, young people have had valuable access to businesses and their leaders, which has given them hope that there are a number of opportunities which enables them to achieve their goals.
Who cares, right? Young people, who cares? None of us care. At least that's what everyone else has us believe. And that's where we've got the label, the uninspired generation from. None of us can be bothered to do anything. I was brought up as a person who was taught that if I want something in life, I work for it. So what's the excuse for the rest of you? I don't like the idea of a young generation that's completely uninspired. Well, if we can't be bothered to do anything, then we are the people of the future. So what happens in the future when none of us can be bothered to do anything? Who runs the country? Who runs the banks? Who runs the industries? Well, not you guys, right? I mean, I'm standing here wasting my breath at the moment. You know, who cares?
So I had a lot of time to spare in the lockdown, which meant I had a lot of time to think about myself, and obviously in a negative way, which made me think how much I hated myself. I compared to myself to all these social media influencers.
Seeing other social media models wanting to change how I look, I've been trying to change how I look, and that's the only way I've had motivation during this lockdown.
In the second lockdown, I literally just wanted to give up on everything. I didn't have passion for my career, I didn't have passion for school. I just felt empty, if I'm being honest. And I love singing, I love dancing, I love it all, and I love performing, and I just didn't want to do it anymore.
I would say that my aspirations have been negatively affected because not doing my GCSEs, I don't know if I would have got them grades, not knowing if I could be smart enough to do law or if I could do anything to help people like paramedics, just not knowing if I'm smart enough to do this.
And now having more time off, it's definitely not good for us at the minute because we don't really know what's happening. Nothing's really been said and nothing's certain.
Now, because of the lockdown, I feel like I'm missing out on the opportunities that are available to me to gain stuff for my CV and missing out on open days or not doing what every previous year has done to find out what they want to do for their career. It's just, I feel uncertain about what I'm going to do in the future.
This is a call to action. We need your continued support to keep inspiring these young people and for you to not only see their worth, but their potential. As business leaders, we look to create a diverse workforce that strives to achieve in all areas. Young people need to be given a chance to prove to business leaders that there is a place for them within your organisation. And collectively, we can do that.
What an inspiring start to the event. I'm now pleased to welcome Councillor Amanda Sargent, Deputy Leader of Chesterfield Borough Council, who will formally introduce the conference. Good morning, Amanda.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you to all the students from Chesterfield College, Atwood Academy and Springwell Community College for such a powerful opening to today's event. I'm delighted to be able to welcome you all here today to our 5th annual Employability and Skills Conference. This event is growing in popularity each year, and it's great to see that so many of our business and education partners from across the borough and surrounding areas have been able to make the time to join us this morning. As in previous years, the focus of this year's conference is on our future workforce, where our aim is to continue to strengthen links between education providers and local businesses to ensure that our school and college leavers have the skills to access career opportunities available in the borough. Over the last year, we've become accustomed to a new normal, where phrases like "you're on mute" and "you're breaking up a bit" have become part of our everyday dialogue. So too have the words change, innovation and resilience. Given the events of last year, today's event provides us with more opportunity than ever to highlight the importance of building resilience. We will look at how we can innovate and work together to inspire and prepare our future workforce for success in the changing and challenging world in which we find ourselves. Our speakers today will provide us with some valuable insights as to how we can achieve this. Rachel Quinn, Head of People and Skills at D2N2 Local Enterprise Partnership, will set the scene by emphasising why skills are one of the most important factors in determining economic outcomes for people and places, and how innovation and delivery in economies and in partnership is key to unlocking these outcomes. James Brand, Managing Director of United Cast Bar and D2N2 LEP board member, will showcase some of the Careers Hub projects that have been developed in Chesterfield over the past year. Innovative projects that have brought our business and education communities together to tackle the impact of the pandemic on career development. In this National Apprenticeship Week, I'm pleased to welcome James Lund from Chesterfield College and Michael Barnfather from the Heathcote's Group. James and Martin will set out how Heathcote's approach to apprenticeships before and during the pandemic has helped them cope on the front line. There is no doubt that challenging times lay ahead, and it will take a real collaborative effort to prevent a lost generation. By the end of today's event, I hope you will agree that we're not standing still in Chesterfield. We and our partners recognise that with change comes innovation, and with challenge comes resilience. Building resilience and raising the aspirations of future generations is a priority for Chesterfield, which is why I'm delighted to welcome Richard Gerver as keynote speaker to today's conference. One of the most inspirational leaders of his generation, award-winning speaker, author and former head teacher, Richard will share his insights on change, telling us why tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it. I hope you enjoy today.
Our first speaker will discuss D2N2 LEP's people and skills priorities and how innovation and collaboration are vital in the recovery strategy across Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire. Please welcome Rachel Quinn, Head of People and Skills at D2N2 LEP.
Good morning, everybody, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here. This is where we check if the innovation is absolutely working and I can get my screens to move forward, which is brilliant. I absolutely can. As I say, I'm Rachel Quinn, Head of People and Skills at D2N2. D2N2 is the economic development body that covers all of Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire. And my particular role is really focused on making sure that the skills of our people and the skills supply that we have locally and the careers that our young people are aspiring for fit with the economy that we're building across D2N2 area, and particularly in this case across Derbyshire and North Derbyshire, and making sure that young people know what those careers are and the pathways in order to make the most of their lives and careers as they go forward. Today's themes really focused on a range of kind of broad areas around change, around innovation and resilience. And I really wanted to focus on innovation in particular in skills and what's happening in that skills and careers arena and how it's changing how we behave. And thinking about all of that, I think there are three contexts about where that skills area overlaps with the innovation theme. It certainly, there has been a shift in terms of how delivery of skills and careers activity has taken place. There's certainly been a shift in the economy, which is changing the demand for different skills over time, that if we're looking further forward at our careers and how we plan our lives, we really need to be more mindful of. But also relationships between people. And all of these things have been accelerated by COVID. And there are some massively positive outcomes that have come out of it. So I'd like to take us through a few of those. I want to start with the economy. The economy across D2N2 is driving some huge innovative changes in multiple sectors. And what I've done here is I've just drawn out three examples of the kind of change that's happening to industries that we might have seen as quite traditional or are happening in a certain way, that technology and innovation are driving it into completely new territories and requiring a whole range of new skills behind them. It's really exciting. The first one on the top left is an example taken from a facility that spans Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire. It's the Medical Technologies Innovation Facility. And here you can see an example of spinal surgery, which is being pioneered for surgeons to use in our hospitals locally. This is called the ScoliBot, and it's actually performing live. These are people being trained to use these robots to perform spinal surgery in a medical setting, and it's completely homegrown. These are technologies that are developed right here in this region. On the right hand side, you'll see that the whole of Derbyshire is absolutely known for transport equipment manufacturing, and our role in rail, particularly up here in Chesterfield, which is also growing, is world renowned. And what's happening in particularly the rail sector is a whole range of developments around new and low carbon technologies. So there's lots of electrification. But here you can see a full example of a hydrogen powered train now being tested live and looking at how that can be rolled out globally, in fact. And at the bottom, our construction sector, traditionally seen as, brickies and plasterers and, joiners, is completely changing as well. A whole range of approaches around modern methods of manufacturing in construction is taking place. New tools, new equipment, and a mixture of both on-site and off-site production to deliver housing at a faster pace with a lower carbon footprint is all taking place within our area now. So there's an awful lot of innovation within that economy happening that will change the way in which we think about skills for the future and the careers pathways available to both adults and young people. But it isn't just these kind of cutting edge industries as well that are changing. We've got innovation everywhere across our economy. So on the left hand side of this slide, we're looking at what's happening in logistics and warehousing. The packaging, very manual processes are being taken over very much by robots and by automated systems, so that we don't, those labour intensive hard work and repetitive roles are reducing within the workforce. But what they're being replaced with is a huge demand for people to be able to program and manage this equipment, also be able to manage the whole system and the business of logistics and warehousing and the supply chains within there. And what this equipment also produces is an awful lot of data and information that businesses can use to plan better and deliver better customer service. And from that perspective, you know, really understanding some of those digital roles become even more important. But also in very traditional industries, so hairdressing as an example, augmented reality and virtual reality are creeping in at some pace actually into those kinds of creative and personal service industries, for both the customer and for new people entering the industry and learning the skills. So they're changing the way customers can choose. You can see here somebody picking which hair colour will work best for them, but also for people training the skills, working on virtual reality models. It's getting everywhere, the technology, and the innovation is fantastic in the way that we can develop our skills and activities. The next area I wanted to focus on was in delivery. And in order to keep pace with this kind of change, we've also got to really think about how can we speed up, you know, the change of the economy and the change of the jobs and skills demands means we need to be much more responsive at supporting adults and young people to really understand what that change means and the shift in those pathways. And actually a lot of these are things that we've talked about for quite a long time, but COVID has given us the impetus to really push us forward and use different technologies, just like today, in order to drive forward those innovations. So I'm not going to steal James Brand's thunder, but I know that My Future platform and that virtual careers fair has been a really good example of how we can use technology to connect people to careers of the future very, very effectively. Also in the careers sphere, we've been thinking about how we work better across a whole collection of schools and colleges and businesses to make sure we maximise the value. Traditionally, that work has gone on a very one-to-one basis, with one advisor or one business working with one school. Increasingly, we are doing much more peer learning, and technology is enabling that, where many employers can work with many schools at the same time, and schools as a collective and young people who are working on these careers projects can learn from one another, just accelerating that learning and what we all get out of it individually. And on the far side, we've got a really big focus on digital skills in D2N2. We know that digital skills are vastly increasing in their demand. Since June, since the middle of the last year, the demand for digital skills nationally has gone up by 36%. The only sector that's had a higher demand for skills has been in health. So the pace of change and the demand for those digital vacancies that are being advertised is huge. But across that, there is an element of needing both core digital upskilling, so understanding the basics of technology, and a supply into those those higher level digital roles, and both are equally important to be able to engage with work and life going forward. So we're doing lots of work, and particularly our colleges are driving forward some work to develop a consistent digital upskilling model, which will allow all young people coming through the skills system to be more resilient to the technology that's coming in all settings and all roles, and to anticipate a bit more of how work and life is going to look in the future. And the last thing I wanted to really touch on was around innovation in partnerships. This is the relationships and how we're all working together. On the left-hand side, you can see the Derbyshire Careers Hub, which has been fantastically successful. The red blob, which is the whole area of the Derbyshire Careers Hub, and you can see Chesterfield on there, but it extends out into the Peak District and the High Peak. Has really brought that innovation in the way in which we work, that one-to-one to a many-to-many relationship to life, and has enabled a whole range of stakeholders and partners to come together and deliver activities like the My Future Careers platform. And we want to extend that because we know that that way of working across many partners has worked really effectively. And that same principle is applied across the way we plan, or the way in which new models of learning post-16 take place. So there is work ongoing at the minute to start to bring together employers, university and higher level skills and post-16 college and progression skills together in an Institute of Technology for Derbyshire. So this will really tie together particularly some of those important STEM and digital skills in a range of industries to give pathways and more flexibility around learning to make sure that young people and adults can access the pathways into the jobs that we know are building locally, such as those hydrogen developments in rail and transport equipment. And all of this is being planned again by a cross-sector panel, the Skills Advisory Panel for D2N2, where we look really intensively at what's happening in our labour market, what's happening in our economy, and how can we prepare much better for it going forward. In terms of that context as to how we do that planning, whereas there had been a lot of silos of planning in the past, as we move forward, it's important that we look at that whole system response, thinking about the skills and the attitudes that young people need right from early years through their skills in career and into the workforce. And underpinning that, a whole focus on careers and connectivity and employer engagement to make sure everybody, parents, young people, employers, skills providers, understand the direction of our economy and how everyone can prepare better for it and succeed and thrive throughout. In D2N2, we have some guiding principles which are really driving all of our thinking and how these things tie back together. The core is around productivity, but the productivity on its own won't work unless those guiding principles 1 and 3 are also included. We have to be making a transition towards low carbon growth. So understanding what low carbon principles are doing to every sector, not just rail and construction as I've shown you here, but across every sector, and how we can reduce our footprint and actually make careers which extend into the future and give us a sustainable life for all. But also making sure everyone can participate in that, making sure that the connectivity exists, to make sure everyone has the digital access, that everyone has the skills they need to succeed and thrive. So getting that connectivity right from the economy and through into our skills system is absolutely essential. So looking right towards the future, where does that take us? The things that we're really focusing on are absolutely that skills for a low carbon economy. What is happening in construction and what are the low carbon changes and how is that going to change the skills supply? What is happening in transport equipment? What is happening in hospitality even? You know, hospitality having a very difficult time at the minute, but it will return at some point, and the low carbon and also the digital skills will be different. So really thinking about how we respond to a whole range of industries and make sure those core low carbon and digital skills are there, because those digital skills will be increasing. And my big recommendation is to make sure that your baseline of understanding digital, being resilient and not be afraid of it. You know, we're all having to learn together, so that getting those core digital competencies absolutely right are a really important baseline. Inclusion is very high priority, making sure people have the access to digital connectivity, to skills, and also to equipment. COVID has really shown us where those gaps exist, and we're working hard to make sure that we can plug those. But also making sure people understand choice and that the aspiration is there, and that their knowledge of the routes that they can follow and how to get there through multiple ways exist, so that at any point in life we can actually, fulfill an ambition around skilling, upskilling and reskilling, which is going to be consistently important. We cannot expect all our learning to happen at school anymore. Throughout life and reflecting the pace of change, we're going to have to shift and learn. And that requires us to plan much further ahead for our future skills needs. I hope that set out a good context for where we are, and I really hope you have a great time in the rest of the conference. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Rachel. In the autumn of 2019, D2N2 LEP was successful in securing Careers Hub funding to support enhanced careers activity in 21 schools across North Derbyshire. In little over a year, the North Derbyshire Careers Hub is the most improved careers hub in the country, largely due to collaborative projects in Chesterfield. Our next speaker will highlight how this has been achieved and the things that you can do to support the hub's ongoing success. Welcome to the conference, James Brand, Managing Director of United Cast Bar and Board Member of D2N2 LEP. Morning, James.
Morning, Dom. Good morning, everybody. My name is James Brand, as Dom just said, and I'm the Managing Director of United Cast Bar Foundries and also a board member at D2N2 LEP that covers Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire, and the joint sponsor and chair of our Chesterfield Town Manufacturing Forum. I suppose my job's a bit of an easier one today, where I get to talk to you about what great work's getting done in the area, but also then I get to duck out and hide behind a video. As many of you well know, United Cast Bar is a foundry here in Chesterfield. We are employing about 100 people in the town, but we also have a scattering of around another 150 people across Europe, manning all of our other sites and facilities. Through representing UCB over the years, I've had the opportunity to push our company agenda and priorities as an employer within the town through joint collaboration with the teams here at Destination Chesterfield, D2N2 LEP, the North Derbyshire Careers Hub and the Borough Council. And I recognised some years ago some key points about UCB within the town. And first and foremost, nobody really knew that we were here or what amazing things that we do here, right on the edge of town. So many people have said to me that they drive past and they never even knew we were there. Also, incredibly, I also recognise that most of our managers at UCB were from outside of the town, driving in from North Sheffield, Derby, Nottingham and even Loughborough, and we need to set about changing this. Becoming more involved with the local community, initially with Destination Chesterfield, has helped to open up a depth of contacts and networks which is so valuable to a business like ours. And we became a cornerstone employer at supporting school and careers programs with enterprise and STEM advisors. And we've been able to take our process, our dirty engineering and manufacturing sector, to a larger audience to promote it in a positive way, but also to highlight the important contribution that it makes to the world that we live in today. Companies like ours play a key role in connecting and inspiring young people to those future job opportunities by creating a greater awareness of the different pathways into different roles, whether it be the new T-levels, the apprenticeships or graduate jobs. We at UCB have identified the skills that we need for our future growth, but it's so important that we ensure young people stay connected to and are aware of those opportunities. It's fundamental work in ensuring we have the right pipeline of talent in place to ensure we're able to achieve our ambition. Chesterfield is a place where strong partnerships and collaboration across many different sectors is being allowed to happen. It's not just us building on strong foundations, so many other businesses around the town are getting involved. I could spend the next minutes listing and thanking all the different companies and sectors that have got involved: Mortgage First, Woodhead Group, MSE Hillier, NatWest Bank, all doing great work to help and support our programmes. There are so many more. Through the Made in Chesterfield programme, we've been able to promote and introduce more than 3,500 school children to manufacturing and engineering businesses within the area. And as we all recognise, the last 12 months has thrown so many barriers and obstacles in our way. And so we've had to devise new ways with our approach and delivery. And such innovative thinking has come to the fore in how the message and the support to the schools and the future workforce can be delivered. I hope that you all have seen, but you all really need to take a look at the My Future Virtual Careers platform. It was initiated because of these barriers that we're facing over the last 12 months. It's got a growing number of businesses being showcased. Again, please take a look. It's an absolutely fantastic tool. We've created video tours more recently to go behind the scenes at different companies like ours to showcase what we do. And the latest idea, which is being promoted in the video that's coming in a second, is with thanks to Fortum. Today, they're launching a new virtual work experience program that encompasses the Skills Builder framework. The program seeks to raise the aspirations, promote transferable skills, and challenge perceptions of young people, whilst providing a valuable experience and inclusive offer for young people, both during the pandemic and beyond. Thanks everyone for being involved. Thanks everybody for supporting behind this project and for listening. Run video, please.
Being on the platform has helped our business so far in that the awareness is rising for our industry. It's not just for us, you know, if we can get our next apprentice through the programme, through the platform, then that's brilliant. But also, I think for us it goes more than that. If we can sort of inspire the next generation and show them the jobs that are out there and get more youngsters into our industry, then that's it for us. That's the benefit for us, that we've sort of done our bit.
The My Future platform has helped me greatly with choosing what I want to do after my A-levels. It's given me a lot of options to look at, and it's helped me in ways that I wouldn't have done by myself. So I think it's something that everyone should use.
Here at United Cast Bar, we've got a plethora of roles available for people coming straight from school or straight from university to come and work in. We're a foundry, so we need some manual operatives working out on the shop floor, all the way through to also needing people to work in the offices, whether that be an accountant or HR. Those are the forgotten roles within an organisation like ours.
If you can, get some work experience, and this scheme gives a brilliant opportunity to be able to do that and get that knowledge and to find out if it's an industry that you actually want to be in.
Through the introduction from Chesterfield Borough Council, the Careers Hub has enabled us to connect with schools and colleges and together develop meaningful school engagement projects such as our Virtual Work Experience programme, which was recently piloted with Springwell Community College. We look forward to 2021 and developing further innovative activities for young people with the D2N2 LEP.
Hi, my name's Stuart Burks and I'm the Careers Lead for Springwell Community College. Being part of the North Derbyshire Careers Hub has helped us to develop our careers programme at Springwell Community College, whilst enhancing our networks and opportunity to support young people's social capital. At a time where work experience was wiped off the table and facilitating employer encounter with students was more challenging than ever, the opportunity to collaborate on a bespoke virtual work experience pilot with Fortum and the D2N2 Careers Hub has been hugely beneficial and a rewarding experience for ourselves and our students to be part of.
Working closely with the D2N2 Careers Hub over the last year, and together we've achieved so much. D2N2 have consistently supported our objectives of developing the skills of our residents in Chesterfield and ensuring that they can build a great career. Projects like My Future, the Women in Construction Mentoring Programme and the Virtual Work Experience placements have had a real impact on young people in our borough, and are demonstrating that Chesterfield is a great place to work, live and grow.
Thank you, James, and a really, really inspiring video. Lots of things that people can get involved with as businesses, lots of projects there that might be good for you as education providers. Make sure that the young people know about them and can get involved. As one of the UK's most experienced care providers, Heathcote's Group are head officed in Chesterfield and have over 60 services operating across the UK. 2 years ago, we heard from Managing Director Brendan Kelly on why Heathcote's placed apprenticeships at the centre of their workforce development strategy. Now 2 years on, Michael Barnfeather will update us on the progress and outline how their approach to apprenticeships before and during the pandemic has helped them cope on the front line. Please welcome Michael Barnfeather, Senior Learning and Development Officer at Heathcote, and firstly, James Lund from Chesterfield College.
Many thanks, Dom. Good morning, everybody. My name is James Lund. I'm Interim Director of Sales for the Chesterfield College Group. As Dom said, I'm going to introduce Michael a bit later on, who's got a video of how they've worked with the college and used apprenticeships. But what I want to run through first is just how apprenticeships have always been vital for workforce development in a changing world, but outline some of the reasons that companies are using them at the moment and how it's supported them through the past year and ongoing into the future. So just a bit of background in terms of Chesterfield College Group. So Learning Unlimited is the apprenticeship arm of the Chesterfield College Group. So Learning Unlimited works with employers and young people to support them to start their career as an apprentice, but also work with existing employees and supporting them with upskilling and developing new skills in the workforce. We've got sites in Chesterfield, located within the main Chesterfield College premises on Infirmary Road. We also have a site on Pride Park in Derby, and we've got an office in Nottingham, and we've also got an office in Manchester to cover the northwest as well. Currently, we've got over 1,600 apprentices on programme. They range from level 2, so lots of people starting out their careers, school leavers and college leavers, right up to level 5, so foundation degree, HND apprenticeships. Currently, we've got over 50 different apprenticeship standards that we deliver across many industries, so wide ranging from engineering and manufacturing through construction, obviously health and social care, which you'll hear about from Heathcote's Group, through to sort of hospitality, professional services like finance, business administration, management, digital marketing, so a wide range. And we are currently looking at developing new standards as well. So we're always on the lookout for what industry and employers are wanting and helping them with their changing needs. So things like quality we're looking at the moment, lean manufacturing we're looking at introducing over the next few months, and more specialist apprenticeships in things like HR and learning and development as well to support companies with developing their internal skills. So why do apprenticeships matter? Obviously, succession planning has always been key, helping organisations look at bringing in the next generation, but also looking at future-proofing their business. Everybody's got ageing workforces. Some industries, it's more acute than others. So there's always been a need to bring in new people to the business, look at bringing in young people who bring new ideas, new ways of thinking, really adaptable to IT. But it's also about building resilience. So there's been a lot of work over the past year with companies across a multiple range of sectors, looking at how they build resilience, supporting team leaders and managers to improve their skills and to develop, how they can manage change. So a lot of people have now gone to different ways of working, different shift patterns, working from home, using technology. So it's about supporting organisations and the managers and team leaders in those organisations to be able to manage that and effectively deal with people who aren't always located in the office. So team leading and management skills and leadership skills, really important. And obviously the big one is about innovation. Obviously using platforms like this, multimedia platforms, a range of social media platforms. So we've got a lot of organisations now looking at apprenticeships to support with their digital innovations, digital marketing apprentices who can come in and support the online presence, developing the websites, getting the content on the websites, whether it's YouTube videos, blogs, case studies, a whole range of things. So lots of organisations now are using apprenticeships, not just to bring in the new talent, but help them adapt to their existing workforce and develop the new skills that they need moving forward in this new way of working. So in terms of Heathcote's group, I'm just going to do a quick run through and then we'll hear from Michael on his video. But Heathcote's are based in Chesterfield, head office is in Chesterfield, but they cover pretty much the whole of England. So they've got sites as far north as sort of Newcastle in the northeast, where we've got apprentices in, over through to Blackpool in the northwest and down into the southeast around London and the M25 corridor as well. Very much an ethos to nurture and develop staff for the benefit of their service users, really passionate about apprenticeships and believe in them. We've worked in partnership with them since 2012, and currently we have between 200 and 300 learners engaging with apprenticeships across all their sites in England. It's about helping identify needs and developing programs on a range of things as well. So we help them with the maths and English as part of our apprenticeship program, also looking to support with any mandatory training that they're looking to do and how we can incorporate that into the apprenticeship programs that we deliver. It's very much a partnership approach, which is about ensuring the smooth transition to cope with the demands of the pandemic and building on what we've been doing over the previous years before the pandemic hit last year. Like many companies, they are actively recruiting and developing staff at the moment to meet their current and future needs. Lots of companies are still looking at apprenticeships, still recruiting. We've seen really strong interest across the board from a range of sectors and companies, different sizes, who are still passionate about apprenticeships and want to take on young people and support their development. So I'd like to now hand over to the video from Michael, who will explain a bit more about Heathcote's experiences of using apprenticeships.
Apprenticeships are important to us because they allow us the opportunity to upskill people, not just through work experience, but through education in parallel. And there's no other way of doing that, really. The apprenticeship model and our relationship with the college allows us to change the way that people are educated. It allows us to tailor people's qualifications to their job roles. And it allows us to have a certain level of reassurance that our whole staff team is developing along with the times in which we live. And I think if anything, the last 10 months have taught us it's that the times change. And having that responsive relationship with the college and with our apprentices means that we can change with the times. Apprentices have helped us roll with the punches, as it were, in this developing situation. By having that flexibility that apprenticeships have to perhaps pause learning or to progress through a course in times when there is a lot of waiting around. As I'm sure you'll recall, during periods of lockdown, there's periods where it feels like nothing's happening. And by having this qualification to fall back on I feel like we've kept learners engaged during periods of time where it would be easy to just fall into a very mundane routine. By having people upskilling even during times like this, I think that really helps us with continuity of care. I think that helps us in situations where perhaps more established staff or further educated staff might have to have self-isolated for a period of time. Having the staff who are then covering, as it were, for them to be on an apprenticeship sort of educational basis, that really enables them to meet the needs. Let's say one of our services has an outbreak of COVID and half a dozen people have to go home and self-isolate for 2 weeks. Having the rest of the staff team going through this educational process, I think gives them the confidence as well as the skills to operate in that environment where there's less bodies around, less perhaps touchstones that one would normally go to for advice available. So it's really crucial for us to keep standards high even when the world is struggling with this disease. My personal viewpoint, at least, is that it could be quite easy for things to slip, for people to use COVID as an excuse not to push people to provide the best they can provide. And I think it's really important that we don't let that happen, because if it does, then it's really hard to claw back. I think by keeping this constant flow of apprenticeships going, by enrolling people steadily on courses, we can keep those standards high, especially when we're talking about skills around infection control, which obviously is a major topic at the minute. We ensure that we are coping with this pandemic as best we can, and not just doing well, but excelling. That's one of the things we honestly really value about our relationship with the college, is that the college has always been quite adept at looking at the job roles that our learners have, that our staff use, what skills that are actually relevant to our staff, and sort of tailoring qualifications or which qualifications they're enrolled on to match those skills, to make sure that learners are getting real world skills that are actually going to be helpful for them. And obviously that's changed a lot in the last year, but the college has always been very responsive at identifying needs, doing those job role assessments and identifying what course is best for this particular learner, but also how the course might need to change. And that doesn't just involve the material on the course, but the delivery of the course. Right, so since the first lockdown and subsequent lockdowns, we've been doing a lot more online courses. So short courses where staff can almost update and refresh skills in a 20-minute, 30-minute session, just to kind of keep knowledge at the forefront of people's minds, stop people slipping back as time goes on. We've also pivoted since the second lockdown to online deliveries, so deliveries through systems like this, whereby we can remotely discuss things with staff, engage in group work and so on, and just have that personal sort of face-to-face touch without that face-to-face contact. And I think that's been really beneficial in situations where we aren't necessarily in the safest situation going and meeting people face to face. I don't know if it's going to replace the way that we've done training for years, but I think it's definitely going to augment it. And it's just more options for us. It's a new way of delivering training that perhaps will fit in more conveniently with people's availability. As we come out of this pandemic, hopefully, I think there's going to be a surge of people looking for jobs in the industry, just because notoriously it's an industry that you can get in on the ground floor without a huge amount of prior qualification, which is great for people who've got that drive and spark to want to help others. And I think schemes like the Kickstart scheme, the apprenticeship scheme overall, and the various incentives that go along with it, that's really valuable. We've got these people who start at the ground floor, they start as support workers, they're wanting to help others, they're wanting to upskill themselves, and the apprenticeship schemes and the incentives around it are really beneficial for taking those people who all they've got is that incentive, that desire to help, but they haven't necessarily got the classical education. By using the apprenticeship scheme, we can upskill people on the job. We can give them that training alongside the experience in the job role, which not just helps them be better at their job, but also provides them with that educational advantage that could give them the opportunity to progress within the company or their career overall. And as I said, I personally feel that once things settle down, there's going to be a lot of people who perhaps lost their job during the pandemic or decided that they weren't happy with the job role they were in during the pandemic and they're looking for a new start. And I think as time goes on, I think a lot of those people will find themselves working perhaps in the health and social care sector.
Thank you to Michael and James for that update on apprenticeships. If people want to find out more about apprenticeships in Chesterfield, there's the Apprentice Town website, which has got lots of useful advice and different providers that can support you. Richard Gerver's our keynote speaker today. Morning, Richard. Richard's an award-winning speaker and best-selling author who described as one of the most inspirational leaders of his generation. Richard will address the profound challenges that now face young people and educators at the conference and share some of his thinking on what we can all do to enable more young people to get to the jobs they aspire to. Please welcome to the Chesterfield and North Derbyshire Skills Conference, Richard Gerver. Morning.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that, Dom. With an introduction like that, inspirational, that kind of stuff, particularly in the current climate, this is only going to go one way, I reckon. But anyway, look, it's brilliant to be with you, and it's brilliant to be back, albeit virtually, in what I consider my second home, Chesterfield. I gave my first ever speech in Chesterfield at what was the Chesterfield Hotel, and I have spent many happy summers on the at Queen's Park watching the cricket, and I can't wait. I hope, fingers crossed, to be back there again late this summer to watch Derbyshire beat Yorkshire again. But enough of that for now. I want to spend the time I've got with you this morning really exploring the human response, the human reflex of what it is we've been living through over the last 12 months, and hopefully a little bit about what we can learn from that experience. But I want to do it on a very, very human level. And I'm going to start, if I may, by reflecting on the kind of emotional journey I imagine many of you have been on. It's certainly the journey that I continue to flow through as we live in these extraordinary, seemingly never-ending times, and to see what we can gain from that. And I don't know about you, but when this thing first really cracked off in mid-March, I just got back from a working trip abroad and got home, and it hit, right? It really hit. And for me, as a professional speaker, I saw the dominoes of my diary just skittle downwards. And I remember sitting in front of the television, watching those early next slide, please, press conferences, and trying desperately to take in what was being said. But I kind of hit in that first phase a period of paralysis, I think. It was like information was bouncing off. I'd sit and watch and listen to the radio and hear what people were saying, but nothing was being absorbed. And that led, after a while, I think, to a period of denial, a period where I started to try and convince myself that this wasn't going to be that bad. It was going to be over relatively quickly. The experts were over exaggerating where this thing could go. And of course, when rapidly I realized I was kidding myself, I entered a phase of anger, a sense of absolute rage against everybody and everything. I mean, all right, the politicians, kind of excusable, but the scientists, I even started raging about my neighbors. I've never been a curtain twitcher. And suddenly I was twitching about who was coming and going in the houses next door. I was angry at everything. And when that didn't seem to help or make me feel any better, I think I entered a phase that's kind of already been addressed in this morning's event. And that was one of, at best, listlessness, a kind of hopelessness, I think, I guess a mild depression. I found myself in a position where I really just couldn't find any motivation at all. And I think in a way that experience is a very heightened example of what living through any form of uncertainty or change feels like on a human level for so many of us. You know, and in a way we struggle with it because really from a very early age in our lives, we're prepared to lead lives of certainty. It's the way we're raised. It's certainly the way we're educated. And to a large extent, the way we're managed when we get into the workplace. So when change hits, and by change, I'm talking about the stuff that is beyond anybody's control. When something comes as a curveball from outside, we really find it hard emotionally to deal with, right? We grapple for levers of control, desperately trying to scrabble around to find some way of making sense of it, of regaining control. And the process usually ends in this kind of period of mild despair. And it happens not just in COVID. I remember it happened way back in 2007 and 8 during the global financial crisis. It happens every time there's a disruptive technology or a new policy from government or a new methodology of doing things. And for a large range of people of any age, that kind of enforced change feels terrifying. And I think it's really important, therefore, that first of all, we acknowledge it. And secondly, we look for ways to how we can deal with it as we move forwards. Because the truth is, whilst COVID has been the most horrific experience in most people's lived experience, it's not the first, and it certainly won't be the last time that we will have to cope with profound levels of change in our personal and professional lives. And for me, I think so much when I look for inspiration, I draw on from really young children. And the way I found myself out of this kind of fourth phase of decline into change really came from thinking about young kids. And I was privileged for many years, for nearly 20 years, to work in primary schools in Derbyshire. And I was always amazed at how incredible young kids were at coping with change and uncertainty. And of course, really so much of where they come from, so much of it's not even a coping mechanism, is it? Comes from their curiosity, their boundless ability to ask questions, to look ahead, to find new pathways. And in many ways, that's what I want to talk to you about this morning, because I think amongst all of the skills and all of the knowledge and all of the attributes we need to have, and what we need to ensure that our young people have, if they're going to do more than survive but thrive in what is going to continue to be an extraordinarily challenging and diverse future. We need to make sure that we fire their curiosity and we fire ours too, so that we can create a really active sense of participation in the world as it moves forward. You know, one of the great challenges to mental health is that moment in a snapshot in our lives where we stop feeling in control, when we go from being proactive to becoming reactive. And we have to work really hard at that. And again, in so many ways, the answer lies in our young kids. How many of you have seen an image like this before in your lives? Any of you who are lucky enough to have children or grandchildren or young children in your family will have seen a picture just like this before. You know, it's that one young children bring proudly to you when you walk through the door at the end of a day at work. That was when we were allowed to go out to a day at work. And you look at it in awe and wonder. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I think it's beautiful. I think it's really beautiful in its freedom. And because it's just an expression of what that child wants to create. But there does come a time in all of our lives when somebody says to us, perhaps for the first time, you have to colour in between the lines. Now, that's a really profound moment for us emotionally and the way we view the world. Because we go from being deeply curious and unafraid of any adventure to one where we start to believe there's a value system controlled by other people, and our job actually is just to do what we're told in the way we're told to do it, which, when we were being prepared, if you like, for an industrial age, was kind of okay, because everything then was about a focus on efficiency to drive productivity, to drive profit, so you could reinvest in efficiency. And in many ways, it's why so many of us are struggling as the world continues to catalyze profound change and development and uncertainty. So the first thing to think about is, how do we get back some of that childish curiosity? How do we get back some of that awe and wonder and ability to question and find adventure even in the toughest times? Have a look at this picture. I don't know how many of you have seen this before. This comes from an incredible book called Earth from the Air. I love it. It's filled with images like this. And I often ask groups of people what they see. And it's really interesting, because when I ask an adult audience, most of them try and apply logic to find the right answer. Because again, we often feel the stakes are too high to get something wrong or say something daft. So we look for the logic to find the right answer. Because again, in many ways, what we've been taught through most of our lives, that logic is the currency of clever. And whilst it may be one currency of clever, there are others. So the smart adults in the room, the pub quizzers, they'll be sat looking at this picture going, oh yes, I'm unpicking the logic here. Blue water, brown land, green, could be algae, could be pollution. Hold on, I think it's sulfurous. I think it's sulfurous because that looks like the residue of a larval flow and there's a hot spring. Hold on a minute, I think this is somewhere volcanic. But wait, there's people on the bridge and they're in shorts and t-shirts. So this is a tourist destination. The really smart pub quizzes in the room right now are wearing that smug face, you know, the one that, and they're going, I think you'll find that's Yellowstone National Park. You show that same picture to a room full of young children, 5, 6-year-olds, and you can only imagine what comes out. My favorite response from a group of kids in Derbyshire, 6 years old, was, that's the face of an evil wizard. Boom, straight off. Now, the interesting thing is, whether you can see it or not, it really doesn't matter. But what young children are doing is thinking differently. They're looking for the opportunity. They're using their curiosity and imagination for what could be, rather than being tied down to what was. Just have a look at another one. This is the same book. This, one of my favorites, just for those of you that need to know the answer, is date drying in the Cairo Basin. My favorite response from a group of young children is, that group of people are building a duvet for a giant. Isn't that lovely? Let me introduce you to, by the way, in the 15 minutes or so I've got left, I'm just going to name drop, by the way, because I know most of you have no idea who I am. So I'm just going to tell you about some of the really cool people I get to hang out with, in a hope that that makes you feel that I'm kind of, you know, mildly okay. So here's the first one. This is Barry Barish. Barry Barish was the 2017 Nobel Prize winner for physics. He got it for his research into gravitational waves. Now, I am not a physicist, so to me, that sounds like a hair care product, but he's a brilliant, brilliant man. Many people say he's up there with Stephen Hawking as one of the greatest scientific minds of our generation, well, of any generation. I got the chance to ask him a few questions when we met, and I'm particularly interested, and I thought it might be particularly relevant today. I'm always interested to ask about what you're looking for when you hire people. So I said to him, Barry, you know, when you were putting together your research team that went on to win a Nobel Prize, what did you do? I said, first of all, how many applicants did you have for the research team? He said, well, serious applicants, over 3,500. Wow. I thought, what do you mean? Qualify that. What do you mean by serious applicants? He said, oh, Richard, they were all world-class scientists in their own right. They had at least 2 doctorates to their names. They'd been published in the world's most significant journals. They were some of the greatest researching minds on earth. I said, right, and how many places did you have in your team? He said, eventually, 138. I said, how on earth did you get down to 138 from 3,500? He said, 2 things. He said, the first is, I didn't want anyone on my team that had only got science in their background. He said, you find that people that have single track routes in their lives lack the ability to think outside of any box, to challenge the rules and systems they need to challenge in order to evolve, to create, and to innovate. He said, so anyone who made it onto my team had to have arts, humanities, they had to have a really colourful background as well as their science career. I said, what was the second thing? He said, the second thing was nobody made it onto my team if they didn't have the ability to ask stupid questions. Just brew on that for a minute. Just a couple of thoughts to lay in your heads as you go about the rest of your day. First of all, is there anything such as a stupid question? And secondly, what is it that prevents most of us from asking what we perceive is a stupid question? And maybe that's where we need to go. And to that extent, I want you to think about the way we lead our lives a bit like being in a casino. Let me take learning, for example. And it's already been said this morning that we have to stop this daft notion that learning is something that's neatly packaged up until you're 18 or 21 or until you leave a formal education institution. And now more than ever, we have realized that we have to be tapped into learning through our entire lives. But let's go back. Imagine a child walking into a classroom, or your staff walking into a meeting, or your students walking in to a lecture or a learning session, right? And imagine that place is a casino and you are the croupier. And when those people come in to the room to engage with you in whatever it is that is around learning, right? They're walking in with a different number of poker chips each to be able to play the game. Poker chips of self-esteem. Now, some of them are high rollers. You know the ones, the really annoying people. We can be honest with each other here. You know those ones that are always going to butt in. They're always going to jump the queue. They've always got something to say. Those people are walking in with bagfuls of poker chips of self-esteem. And then there are the others, the frustrating ones, who might have something to say, but just lurk in the corners, hoping they'll be ignored. And so this is the game, right? You're in charge of whatever the meeting is, the learning environment, the classroom. And what you do is you spin the wheel and you roll the ball. Every time you ask them to engage, you ask them to discuss something, to look at a challenge, to answer a question. And so the ball's rolling. And every time you're asking them, you're saying, really, come on, place a bet of self-esteem with me. Now, the high rollers, they're chucking chips everywhere, red, black, odd, even individual numbers. And then there are those lurking in the shadows with one poker chip of self-esteem. And they're thinking, I'd love to play this game. This game looks great. But I've got one poker chip of self-esteem. And if I put this on red and it comes up black, or odd and it comes up even, I've got nothing left. So one of the things that is so incredibly crucial, now more than ever, is not necessarily just to regard skills and knowledge as content and physical deployment stuff. But now more than ever, the crucial question to ask is, who's got the poker chips? And how do we build them in the people that don't? And the truth here really is this, that the poker chips of self-esteem only come when you fail or you make a mistake. And so it's really crucial that we give people permission and encourage them to do that in the right situations. Because every time you do and you come back, that's a poker chip of self-esteem. But the tragedy is, the older we become, the more adverse to risk and to looking stupid and to making mistakes we become. And so our poker chips often get depleted. And if there's nothing else I've learned in my time as an educator, I've learned this, that you learn nothing new by getting something right. You only ever learn something new from the point of a mistake or the realization that you don't know something or you can't do something. And I think it's vital that we change people's mindsets. Now here's the next name drop for you. This is a very cool guy. And if you get a chance after this morning's event, go on YouTube, look him up. This is Sébastien Foucault. Sébastien is the founder of parkour or free running. You know, those guys, and they just leap and jump and do crazy stuff. Look him up on YouTube. You'll know him because he's most famous for being in the opening sequence of Daniel Craig's first James Bond film, Casino Royale. He's the bad guy being chased by Bond in Madagascar over the buildings and the cranes. Absolutely incredible. Go back and watch it again. He's also, by the way, danced with Madonna. What can I say? Men of a certain age danced with Madonna. Anyway, back on track, Richard. So this is Seb. And I remember having a conversation with him early on in our friendship and asking him about where parkour began. And he said, you know, really, Richard, it's not a sport. It's a way of seeing the world. It's a mindset. He said, I grew up in a really tough community north of Paris. We were immigrants from Guadeloupe in the French West Indies. He said, and I came over and we were trapped in this kind of concrete tower block. He said, and I, as a kid, I just was one of those children that used to lose myself in fantasy and imagination. And he said, there were days where I would sit outside when I was allowed to sit outside the tower block and see the concrete all around us. And he said, I remember clearly one day seeing a shaft of light come down between the gap between two of the buildings. And I remember thinking to myself, spending hours actually fantasizing about where that light might take me. He said, that's the foundations of parkour. It's about spotting the spaces between objects and then finding a way to travel through them. And as he was talking, I was thinking to myself, you know, in a way, that is absolutely the mindset we all need to have right now. Because we all spend a little bit too much time obsessing with the buildings. You know what I mean? I'd love to go down there, but there's a building. Wouldn't it be great if building, but, because they're the big stuff. And actually what parkour is about is spotting the chink of light, the little opportunity, and then having the courage to step through it. I remember him saying to me, he said, Richard, the next time you walk through an urban landscape, don't look at the buildings, look at the spaces between them. The spaces between buildings are beautiful, because they constitute opportunity. And right now more than ever, I think that's something we have to encourage ourselves and our students to think deeply about, which is how do we spot opportunity in the tough times? And on that note, I just want to share with you an exercise, 6 simple questions that I rediscovered from the positive psychologist Martin Seligman recently, because they've really helped me. Very simple, and it's really about a process of regaining a semblance of perspective and a feeling of control just when you're staring at the biggest buildings. Just have a look at these. So go through the process. The first question to ask when you're dealing with that moment, you know, where everything clenches up. What's the worst thing that can happen? What's the one thing I can do to stop the worst thing from happening? What's the best thing that could happen right now in this situation? And what can I do to help the best thing to happen? Now, the point is, you're not necessarily going to find profound answers, but this is just a methodology of helping you regain perspective. And that brings you to the last 2 questions, which perhaps are the most pragmatic. And they're these. What's the most likely thing to happen? And what can I do to handle the most likely thing if it happens? The best, the worst, the most likely. A way of helping you to look between the spaces and not always head on at the buildings. Whatever circumstances we're in, The trick is to look for the opportunities, however small they may be and wherever they may be. To turn a problem into an opportunity to express innovation and creativity and new ways of thinking. In its simplest terms, that moment of adversity potentially is a moment to learn, and by learning, to put another poker chip back in the bag. Couple of minutes left, so a couple of final stories and a couple more name drops, if that's okay. I'm going upscale because I could feel even through my computer screen you've not been terribly impressed with Barry or even with Seb. You will be when you look him up on YouTube. But here's two more. Two heroes I've had the chance to meet in the last few years who have both said things to me that I find incredibly profound. The first was Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, the genius engineer behind actually building the original Apple computers. And I remember him telling me about the early days of Apple. He said, you know, Richard, we had no idea what we were doing. We were just messing about in Steve Jobs' stepdad's garage. We had a few friends from Computer Club. He said, and actually we started out Apple by making voice-changing synthesizers, which we just sold to our friends so that they could make prank phone calls. He said, but the thing is, the thing grew really fast because Jobs had this incredible ability to convince people that we would have a solution to their problem. He said, and it exploded. He said, now at first it was fine. We were in the garage, we had friends, but suddenly investment was being thrown at us. It was getting serious. And that meant we were going to have to recruit a highly skilled team. He said, and I remember one night going out with Steve for a beer to talk about our recruitment strategy. And he said, there's a lot of rubbish written about Steve Jobs. But that night he said something really pertinent. He said, you know what was, if this company is to survive more than a couple of years, we can't just make stuff. We have to give the world stuff it doesn't know it needs yet. And that means just having smart people is not going to be sufficient. So that night they came up with a mantra, a promise, which must work because Apple still use it today as part of their hiring philosophy. And like all things that Apple create, on the surface it's beautifully simple, but scratch deep, slightly deeper underneath and the complexity is profound. And it's another one for you to think about and talk about. Very similar to what Barry said. And this was the promise. He said to me, Richard, at Apple, the promise was, we will never employ anyone who needs managing. So maybe that's another profoundly important thing for us all to think about, a challenge. How do we create future generations that don't need managing? And that leads me to my final story. And to be honest, my mic drop moment. This is the moment where I tell you this and then I fade to black and leave the room. So the final hero I got to meet, not that long ago, not that far before all of the craziness began, was the number one person on my fantasy dinner party list. You know, those lists we all build, the people we'd love to have dinner with, the people you'd love to have in a room. And fate allowed me to meet my number one. And it was him. Two things very quickly to say about this picture, or three. The first thing is, no, that's not Madame Tussauds. Some people have asked me that. Secondly, it turns out, look how excited he is to see me. He was clearly waiting. I was on his fantasy list as well, clearly. And the third thing is, isn't it amazing how many chins a beard can hide? But very quickly, I'm going to wrap it here because I got the chance to ask him one question. And by the way, he was everything you'd want him to be. He was real, down to earth, humble. He was just, you know, sometimes you meet your heroes, they disappoint you. Not him. Extraordinary. So I said to him, what's the one thing you think you learned during your 8 years in the White House? And he flashed that smile and he said, I'll tell you. He said, when I first went into the White House, I surrounded myself with the world's greatest technically minded people, political strategists, economists, scientists, anyone, because I could. He said, but what I realized when I reflect on my 8 years in the White House is this. Virtually none of the problems that crossed my desk, just think about that for a moment, the problems that crossed his desk. He said virtually none of the problems that crossed my desk were technical by nature. When you strip them back, they were actually human. They're about love, anger, jealousy, greed, tribalism. He said, and all too often our reflex when we're dealing with a problem is to go straight to the technical or the strategic. And we need to understand the human first. And I think that has never been more true than it is now, and particularly in the sector of a future workforce. Thank you so much for humouring me this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. I'm sure you've all been inspired by that. Amazing things to go away and think about and implement in a business and education and in our lives. So thank you for your time this morning. Before we go on to the question and answer session, I'm delighted to announce the winners of the competition, each who will receive a copy of Richard's best-selling book, Change, Learn to Love It or Learn to Lead It. The winners are James Hicklin from DBC Training, Rosie Morton from Derbyshire County Council, Aaron Squires from Juniper Training, and Christine Giles from Highfield School. We now move on to the question and answer session. A few people have sent questions in. If you do have questions for our guests today, please do share them in the chat and we'll pick a few up this morning. So please welcome back our guests from the morning, and they'll also be joined by Emily Williams from Chesterfield Borough Council and Nilly Blagg from Heathcotes. Good to have you all back with us. Thank you everyone for your presentations this morning as well. So I've got to start the question just to get us going. We've got about 10 minutes of questions, so we'll have time for 3 or 4, I would imagine. So I'll ask you all to get involved with different questions as we go through. So today we have seen examples of best practices and innovative approaches to career development. What do you think is the secret to the success, and how the activity has been developed in Chesterfield to be used on a wider career strategy for the D2N2 area? So I don't know, Amanda, if you want to come in on that one first.
Thanks, Tom. I think the key of what we've heard today is really about partnership and partnership working, and the strength of the partnerships that we've had, not only with the D2N2 hub, but also with our fantastic local businesses that we've heard from today. People like Chesterfield College, our local schools as well. And I think, that working together, that history of working together has meant that when we had to move virtually, although it's had its technical challenges and difficulties, we were able to do it and move quickly. And I think some of the virtual platforms that have been set up, like My Futures and this today, although I know we'd all rather be in a room together, but still it's a fantastic opportunity just to explore new ways of working together. So that's my key take from this, is partnership is key. Thanks, Tom.
Brilliant. And Rachel, from a regional point of view, how can it be spread out across the patch? You talked a little bit about that in your presentation, but it'd be good to reinforce that now.
Yeah, I think the important thing for me, and absolutely agree with the last point around relationships, it's also about how you structure it. From our perspective at D2N2, it's really important that the work on careers is aligned with the economy of the area, so we understand the direction of travel. Where are those industries that are strong in each area? Where are they going? How fast are they getting there? And how well does the skills system, how well is it enabled to keep up with that pace of change? So it's about information for young people and the population. It's about keeping those employers and those strong industries moving and thinking about how they're going to meet their future labour and skills needs, and then making sure that you're connecting those things together around a sensible geography, and keeping everybody, talking within that process. It's back to exactly Richard's point around it's the human aspects of it, and the collaboration is absolutely essential.
Brilliant. Thank you both. Got a question from James from when he did his presentation. Are United Cast Bars offering or planning to offer kickstart opportunities for young people currently claiming benefits? I think if not, it'd be great if probably Emily could just touch on Kickstart for us and the role of that in the local economy.
You want to go first, Emily, or shall I? Quick one from UCB's perspective. We're working on it. Obviously, coming out of the last 12 months of turbulent market that we've just had, getting people back to work, we have a priority, obviously, with our own workforce at this moment in time, but obviously we're going to be looking at it within this next quarter.
Brilliant. Okay, no, that's great. I mean, obviously, if anyone wants to find out more about it, I'm sure Emily and others will be able to help on the Kickstart opportunities that are available to them. Yeah, so the next question leads us on to apprenticeships, really, which I suppose is quite relevant with it being National Apprenticeship Week. So it's about the LMI data around student pathways. So it's sort of about a question about the changes in opportunities in apprenticeships that have happened over the last 12 months, but also, are there any predictions around the number of apprenticeships that will be coming forward over the next 12 months as an area of growth? So, James, I don't know if you've got sort of any information or guidance you can give us on that one.
Yeah, so in terms of Chesterfield and the surrounding area, we've seen in the past 12 months probably the key growth areas, two key growth areas. One, Heathcotes and the sort of the health and the social care, NHS, public services. That's been a real growth. It was strong anyway, but we've definitely seen that grow, and construction as well. A lot of construction apprenticeship opportunities. We can see that moving forward for the next 12 months, continuing to grow in the local economy. Obviously, the college is now investing in a digital skills centre within the college to look at things like augmented reality, virtual engineering and construction design, but we still see strong growth. I'm conscious James is here, but from engineering and manufacturing as well. It's starting to recover now. Like you mentioned, people are getting back into work, companies are getting back up to more pre-COVID operational levels. So those companies that didn't recruit last year are looking at recruiting this year. So yeah, it's still positive. Numbers are still holding up strong for us as a college in terms of number of opportunities coming through, wider range of sectors. But digital, I think, will be a growth area probably for the next 2 to 3 years, a lot more on the digital skills side, social media, website development, content management, those sorts of areas as well.
Brilliant, thank you. And I'll just bring in Nilly at this point, if I can, just to talk about how do you think apprenticeships can be used to aid economic recovery? So, yeah, what's the role of your business and working with apprenticeships to drive forward the sector?
So we currently work with Chesterfield College to support, obviously, our service users. Our turnover of staff is quite high, to be fair, because of the nature of the business and because, obviously, we support service users that are quite challenging. So people, the unemployment rate is quite high, so people are coming in and also people are going out. But we're sort of focusing on retaining staff and enhancing pay rates and more qualifications, and also looking locally as well. I mean, at the moment we've got 2 young apprentices starting at our head office, but 72 services, 1,633 staff. So yeah, we're certainly supporting the sector quite well.
Brilliant, thank you. We've had a question about where the best place to get current LMI information is. So what we'll do is we'll send out some links as part of the follow-up information for the event for people as well. So that's great. For our last question, I'm going to direct one at Richard, if he doesn't mind. What's the best piece of advice you can give to education and business leaders supporting young people with careers development?
Wow. Well, the first thing goes back to almost the first point made, I think, by Amanda and Rachel, which is collaborate. The OECD, who are the big economic organisation that produce the International Education League tables every year, said something very pertinent in 2013, which I think is hugely important in their skills outlook, which was the first ever global report into the links between education, employability and skills. Sadly, it didn't meet our government's agenda at the time, so it was kind of ignored. But I think there's some stuff there that really needs to be thought about. The first is this. the report stated that the countries that focus too much on the acquisition of formal qualifications rather than the development of actual skills and behaviours are the countries where young people are going to find it increasingly difficult to get jobs. Now, that was written pre-COVID, but that's probably even more important now than it ever has been. So that collaboration has to be rich in really understanding the skills and behaviours that organisations are looking for. So the dialogue has never been more important. And the second thing from the executive headline of that report was that the really important qualities were the ability to learn, adapt and change. And again, I think one of the things that we need to see is that partnership. Educators are brilliant at creating learning and educational and developmental environments. And the problem is all too often we seek advice, business looks to give advice to education, but I think the partnership has to be much stronger. And there are experts in that continuous learning and development in the education sector too. So I suppose the one piece of advice, Dom, very long-winded answer, is partnership and real partnership.
Brilliant, thank you, Rich. And I think that's a really good place to finish our panel discussion this morning. I know there's a couple more questions that have come in, so we'll pick those up and send those answers across to people that have shared them with us. Thank you to all the panel for answering the questions this morning. And just before we hear from Chesterfield students who will close the Chesterfield and North Derbyshire Skills Conference, I'd like to thank all our speakers for their thought-provoking and inspiring insights this morning. Thank you for Chesterfield Borough Council, the Careers and Enterprise Company, North Derbyshire Careers Hub, D2N2 LEP and Destination Chesterfield for organising the event. If you're inspired to get involved, please do fill in the feedback form on the conference platform. And obviously, if you want to watch any of the speakers again, they'll be on the platform for the next week, so you can access that on demand now as you require. A big thank you for joining us, and over to our talented young people to share how far we have come over the past 12 months in bringing business and education together.
Today, we want to celebrate the My Future Virtual Careers Hub and everyone that was involved. Believed to be the first of its kind in the UK, the virtual platform uses the latest technology and gives young people from across Chesterfield and North Derbyshire access to the widest high-quality careers advice, employment support, skills and educational programs, including support for young people with special educational needs and/or disability.
Congratulations to Chesterfield Borough Council and partners for responding so quickly to the many challenges resulting from COVID-19 and providing a safe space to support young people at this time.
We want to say a huge thank you to all of our volunteer enterprise advisors and our cornerstone employees. Thank you for your support in 2020. It has been a difficult year, but just look at what we have created by working together.
Now more than ever, we all need to pull together and ensure young people are given the best possible start in life.
Thanks to the D2N2 Careers Hub, I now feel I have more options and I'm more positive about the future, and I know where I'm heading.
As a young person from Chesterfield, I'm now excited about the opportunities that are available to me and the different career paths that I can take.
So please continue to support this work in 2021. We need you.
We need you.
We need you. We need you. We need you.
We need you.
We need you.